sure. Okay. So continuing our sort of journey through part writing, we started with the concept that melodies tend to have as their backbone a basic shape. And one of the most common shapes is 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. And we looked at Mary Had a Little Lamb as having that basic shape. But the important thing to take away from that is that where melodies have this sort of shift in sort of their backbone structure, right, that's where the chord changes occur, right? And if our basic melodic shape, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, is that, then our basic bass line harmonizing that, right, is 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, okay? Meaning that our sort of most common and basic chords are the tonic chord and the dominant chord, right? And then we talked about how if this is your basic melody shape and this is your basic bass line, that we can then look at what are the basic sort of inner voices and how are they structured within this, okay? Because this shape here, these shapes here, determine what the inner voices do. And so we talked about how to build the first chord, and we said that notes must be doubled, right? Right. Usually we double the bass. So you must have all
ACE chord, right?
Yeah, so we have the C, G, the complete triad here with the C doubled. And the other things that we have to think about in building that first chord is the spacing. Sopranos and altos and tenors should not exceed the octave, right? The bass line can exceed the octave from the tenor, that's okay. But the upper three voices consecutively need to be within the octave, right? And then as we move from chord to chord to chord, we resolve the harmonies based on their function, okay? And what we talked about is that tonic chords tend to keep common tones, okay? If there's a note in common in a tonic chord in the chord that follows, in the case of 1 to 5, that would be the G here in the key of C, right? That note is held. And once we hold that common tone, then we realize the note that we're missing here is the B, right? And of course that's easily gotten moving by stepwise motion in the tenor voice here, okay? Dominant function chords, meanwhile, resolve by sensitive pitch. And that scale degree 7 within the dominant chord is a sensitive pitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wants to go to 1. Okay? And then we would determine, okay, the note that's now missing is the G out of this harmony, and of course that's here in the alto. And then moving from this tonic chord to the dominant, tonic chords tend to hold common tones. The G is common. The note I'm missing is the B, which is stepwise. And then resolving this at the end, 7 to 1.
Back to C.
Right, back to C. But this is where things get interesting. And in our final chord at the cadence, the harmony will be incomplete, we discovered, right? Because 3 voices converge on tonic. And we discovered that then what happens with this other voice that's been going 5, 5, 5, 5, we'll drop to 3, right? And then historically, we added the passing tone 5, 4, 3, and then eventually moved the passing tone
to the 5, 7
into the harmony itself, and that's where 5, 7 was born. And of course, 5, 7, 2, 4 wants to resolve to 3. That's also a sensitive pitch because it evolved as a passing tone and has to resolve to 3. Okay. What we want to do next then is look at how do other chords sort of fit into the structure. Because what we're saying in the Strinkerian sort of approach to harmony is that this is the basic harmonic structure in Western music. Okay? Any other chord that we add fits against this. I like to describe this, if we're building something, these are the I-beams, you know, the support structure, right? Every other chord that we add is embellishments to this, okay? But this is what's holding up this whole chord progression. The next most common chord, other than the tonic, the dominant, and then the dominant seventh, actually need to back up. Let's talk about this dominant 7th chord for a second, and then we'll get to the 4th chord next time, sorry. Once we sort of invent the dominant 7th chord, there are other approaches and uses of the 5/7. One thing to talk about is this incomplete harmony at the end. Okay? Composers often are not, historically, they wanted another option, right? Envision, an hour-long symphony and then ending on an incomplete chord doesn't seem right. So, J.S. Bach is one composer in the late Baroque, and then others that did it as well, that actually cheats. And if you look at pieces by J.S. Bach, what you'll often see at the end is this. Rather than the leading tone resolving to 1, he'll drop to 5. And tenors will recognize this sort of line. I'm going to sing the tenor line. 1, 7, 1, 7, 5. Right, that's a very common tenor line. If the tenors aren't the ones going 1, 7, 5, it's probably the altos. Okay, that 7 to 5 cheat. I call this the Bach cheat. 7 should go to 1, but we have an exception. If you want a complete 1 chord at the end, right, you can cheat and 7 can go to 5. Okay, if it's in an inner voice. You wouldn't do this in the soprano because it doesn't sound right. Right? There's a musical necessity for doing this. Okay? So, just to be aware, the 7 to 5 Bach cheat. If you have a complete 5/7 chord going to a complete 1, then you use 7 to 5. Complete to complete Bach cheat is what I call it, is 7 to 5. Okay? The other thing to talk about is the use of the 5/7 chord earlier in a phrase. And let me give you some notes to a melody that imply a different sort of shape here at the beginning. If you know, shall we gather at the river? 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, those are the notes to Shall We Gather at the River. I use that melody because it has a melodic shape that's a little different than Mary Had a Little Lamb. It ends on tonic, just like we would expect. Right? And at the beginning, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. It emphasizes 3, just like Mary Had a Little Lamb did. Right? We have the lower neighbor tone D, consonant skip with a passing tone up to 5, and then the consonant skip back. Okay? But 3 is the important note at the beginning. Okay? At the end, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Right? We feel the emphasis on scale degree 2. Right? And right here in the middle, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 repeats the beginning. So we also have that moment in the melody where sort of the backbone pitch is 3. But our first sort of shift, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 4, 4. Right? It's sort of different. It's not down to 2 like Mary Had a Little Lamb. It really does shift and emphasize 4. Okay? Let me double check the time here. Okay, we're good. And what I want to show is that there is this sort of option. There are melodies that sort of starting on 3 drift down to 2 before coming back to 3 and then 2, 1 at the end. But there are melodies that have a different shape.
From 3 to 4.
That move up to 4 and then 3, 2, 1. Okay? And really all you're doing in terms of if you're harmonizing that, one option is simply replace 2. Literally, we've substituted 4 for 2. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But look at this chord for a moment. It's actually missing a note. What note is it? We had the D there, we took it out. Mm-hmm. Does this make sense? So for a 5/7 chord of scale degrees 5, 7, 2, 4, which is G, B, D, F in the key of C, we have omitted, left out the D. This is what we call the incomplete 5/7 chord. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay, and what we discover is that in Western music, incomplete 5/7 chords are used early in the phrase. The complete 5/7, all 4 notes, is used at the end.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah. And then that's sort of our next lecture. We talked about the tonic chord. We talked about the dominant and the use of the dominant seventh at the end. Today we're looking more broadly at the dominant seventh, the use of the incomplete 5/7 chord early in a phrase where the melody has literally shifted up to 4 instead of down to 2, right? And then that you can have the complete to complete Bach cheat 7 to 5 at the end, just as an option, a different way. Okay, so we've ended up with this chord progression, which would harmonize. Or if I use the Bach sheet. If I wanted that complete chord, where the 7 goes to 5. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. That's the end of that one.